Hi everybody, my name is Guy Aidelberg. I'm an interdisciplinary scientist finishing my PhD at the CRI here in Paris. So I just turned 5. I was in California, and this was about the time that my parents got divorced. I remember moving into 2 new houses and having a giant wall of boxes that me and my little brother played with and broke down. I remember wanting to become an archaeologist and look for mummies. Then I also wanted to make spaceships. These wishes have not really come true, but what I'm doing now is probably even way better. My research breaks down the wall between people and genes. Genes are everywhere around us in every living thing, but it's impossible to just see them with the naked eye or interact with them in meaningful ways. Which means that a lot of what's going on around us remains invisible and inaccessible. That's what I'm trying to change. Scientists have been working on ways to make DNA and genes more visible for a long time. Usually this is something that happens in a big lab with very expensive equipment that you need a PhD to operate correctly. My goal is to take these existing methods and make them much cheaper, more portable, and easy to use so that anybody can do genetic detection anywhere. Let's say you are becoming interested in the food that you eat and you want to know, does this bag of chips contain any genetically modified ingredients? Our kit could answer that question. Or maybe you've been thinking more about viruses lately and you want to know if there's any virus genes on your door handle. Or maybe you want to go out into nature and look for genes of rare plants or animals. Our kit allows unprecedented access to the invisible world of genetics. The first essential finding is that these cheap, simple alternatives actually work. Let me show you how. The first test case we chose was to detect GMOs in food. The way it works is that you take a tiny piece of food that you want to test, you smash it up, you add a little bit of water, you put that into boiling water for 5 minutes, then you take that, you put it in the test tube, you heat it for less than an hour, and if the gene you're looking for is there, it lights up brightly. A key part of our innovation is the super easy to build and use open hardware fluorescence detector. We designed it so that anyone can make one themselves and it costs less than €2. All the other hardware that you need to make this work, you probably already have in your kitchen or you can easily get at the supermarket. And the chemicals themselves we can freeze dry so we can easily send them anywhere. The second essential finding is that anybody can do this. We've been successfully running GMO detective workshops all over the world with hundreds of high school students and with the general public. In many cases, this is the first time they actually get to build a piece of technology with their own hands and see it work. Every time we do these workshops, we refine our design to make them more accessible, lowering the cost of every aspect by an order of magnitude and making it so that you don't need to be a highly trained scientist. This really is a kit that anybody can use. We want to demystify, empower, educate, and inspire. The main thing that we've learned from our workshops is that the public is really curious about DNA, and our kits let them see genes with their own eyes, making it real in a way that it wasn't before. We've also noticed that these workshops very naturally engage people in conversations about genetics. When you go looking for genetically modified DNA in food, you might also wonder about the science and ethics behind GMO crops. Are we using GMOs in ways that are beneficial for society and for the whole world? So I think that another benefit from these kits is that we're going to see a more engaged and informed public on questions related to biotechnology. The science of genetics is advancing really quickly these days, and we need informed citizens to make sure we're using these new technologies in the best way possible. In the last few months, you might have noticed the entire world has changed dramatically, and in response with the big group of collaborators around the world, we've been adapting these same methodologies to develop a cheap, simple, and fast COVID test. We are also excited to support other people's breakthroughs. When you make a kit open source like this, it's easy for other people to build on top of it, and in new and surprising ways. The other day, for example, I met a tiger biologist. They need an easy way to track tigers in India for conservation research. Tigers have genes, and we can detect those genes. That's a new application that I never would have thought of by myself. This could also be used to test food for other specific ingredients you're interested in. Farmers could check exactly what's harming their plants to be able to better respond, or people could check if invasive species are entering into the environments that they care about. One of the questions is how to really scale this method up and get it out to as many people as possible. I also wonder, which are their target genes? Which specific pieces of RNA or DNA would be the most useful for people to be able to detect? Finally, we're also working on making open source versions of these enzymes so that it really could be even more accessible and decentralized.